In today's episode, we discuss the dark ride roller coaster hybrid that marked the beginning of a new era for Gerstlauer. Welcome to Airtime Traveler. How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the Roller Coaster History Podcast. You are listening to Airtime Traveler. My name is Nathan Grace, and I'm joined by my wife and lovely co-host, who is mid-yawn. Oh, we're off to a great start.
I am Haley Grace. Sorry.
Oh, man, my intro is boring. Right? That's not good.
It's just been a long day. This week we've been in the middle of potty training our 3-year-old, so
it's quite the adventure.
It's been a long couple of days. So
if this is your first time tuning into the podcast, we here at Airtime Traveler, we talk about the history of individual roller coasters. So we'll pick one roller coaster and we'll talk about the entire history of that individual coaster. I am a roller coaster enthusiast and have been for a long time. And my wife, Haley, is a member of the GP, or the general public.
That's me.
So I'm here to do the research and share the stories, and she is here to listen to the stories and make me more interesting. So that's kind of...
I don't know why you keep saying make you more interesting. You're an interesting person.
Oh, well, thank you.
I'm just here
You do make me more interesting, though. Just... I can be interesting, but you make me more interesting.
We need to come up with something new.
I feel like we're stuck with that now.
Okay.
I've said that so many times. That's our official intro now.
Oh dear. Okay.
If you are new here, you can go and follow us along on social media. And if you do, then you can see some of the pictures and videos, images that I'll be showing Haley throughout today's episode. So we're on Twitter and Instagram. Our handle's just at Airtime Traveler. And I think that's all I've got for the intro today.
Yeah.
Nothing super crazy going on in the roller coaster. I mean, there's always news we could talk about, but there's nothing that really, I think, is super stand out. Unless there's anything you've seen.
I didn't see any.
Usually if you've seen it, that means it's pretty big news. So
Silver Dollar said they did have another teaser. That's the only thing I remember seeing. It's
still not enough to really have any idea what they're actually doing.
Yeah.
So it just seems to, because they have posted, I think, 3 times in the last week, little teasers.
Yeah.
And it seems like they're going to keep adding little bits to the teaser over time. So that seems
when they're officially announcing stuff.
That's the thing, is like if they're going to post a few times a week, make little adjustment. I don't know. It seems like we'll get an announcement within the next month or two, probably.
I hope so.
But yeah, not for sure when exactly that announcement will come across. So Busch Gardens Tampa did announce that they're closing their Wild Mouse in favor. All they said was to make room for a new attraction. So a lot of people are thinking they're going to tear out that Wild Mouse and put in a big roller coaster in that spot.
That'd be cool. So, and where's that at again?
Busch Gardens Tampa. So
they're always adding stuff, though.
Well, that's the thing, is like the SeaWorld chain, all of the parks are just going crazy. Because so if you look, they have 5 major parks, right? The 2 Busch Gardens parks and the 3 SeaWorld parks. SeaWorld Orlando has added a new roller coaster 2 years in a row. And there's already construction going on for another attraction for next year that hasn't been announced yet. Busch Gardens Williamsburg has opened roller coasters 2 years in a row. Busch Gardens Tampa just opened one early last year, so they're not. Then they opened a new flat ride this year, and then there's rumors for another roller coaster year after that. And then SeaWorld San Antonio is opening a brand new log flume this year. It's like a launched log flume, which is super interesting. Yeah. And then SeaWorld San Diego opened a new roller coaster last year and this year. So they're just they're going like crazy. Like some of these parks, you go 7, 8, 9, 10 years between roller coasters and
like Worlds of Fun.
Exactly, and then all these.
I feel like
SeaWorld
Kennywood doesn't
parks.
add a lot of coasters either.
Oh no, I think one is because they don't probably have as much capital expenditure as some of these other parks.
Yeah.
Especially because they're not part of a
Kennywood
large
did
chain.
just open a new flat ride, though.
They did open a new flat ride, so they are, they're still making investments into the park, which is always good. But yeah, I would not anticipate a new roller coaster at Kennywood for, I don't know, probably another
I feel like Exterminator needs
3 to 5 years, probably. So
yeah, I think Exterminator, that'd be a cool place to either tear out and put a new one in, or
potentially. That's really the other issue Kennywood has, is they're just kind of running out of space. So
yeah, they don't have a lot of space.
So interesting.
It'd be really cool if they could get closer to the river and like do something down there. But I
bet they don't own any property that far down.
Yeah. I guess they would have to go over the tracks. That wouldn't work. Train tracks.
Yeah. So I bet the train line probably owns all that property then.
Probably, yeah. So. State of Pennsylvania.
Yep. Anyway, so shall we dive into today's topic?
Diving in. Okay,
so today we are doing our very first Dollywood episode, which is pretty exciting. One of the things if you're fairly new to the podcast, I may have not mentioned this, but all the roller coasters we talk about, I try to make sure, or I do make sure, that they are roller coasters that either one, I've been on before, or in the case of we do a defunct roller coaster every year, so some of those I may or may not have been on. And then we also do one episode a year where we're going to do a coaster that never existed. That was, the plans were in place or whatever, and then just for reasons or some reason it didn't happen. So other than those two episodes, all the roller coasters we've talked about on the podcast have been ones that that I've been on, and some of them, and most of them Haley has been on too. But so we just recently went to Dollywood for the first time last month. And so that kind of opened the door to start talking about Dollywood coasters on the podcast. So Haley has not been on any of the Dollywood coasters because she's pregnant.
Makes me sad.
But we will definitely go back to Dollywood at some point. So.
I think we talked about maybe going next year because we're going to go to Bristol for your NASCAR race.
Potentially, yeah. So if we end up doing that like we're planning on, then it's not that far from Pigeon Forge to do that. So
that's really not. I think it was like an hour or something like that.
We basically drive through Knoxville, and then I think you must drive through that exit that comes off of Sevierville, and then I guess to go to Pigeon Forge, you take that exit and keep going 30 minutes down towards Pigeon Forge. And if you don't, you just keep driving on the highway up to, Johnson City, Bristol, up that way. So
yeah.
So it's probably like an hour and a half away from Bristol, but you pass by within 30 minutes of the park when you're on that highway. So yeah, not bad at all. So, but anyway, today we are going to be talking about. Let me get this set up here. We're going to be talking about Mystery Mine at Dollywood.
I remember you talking to me a little bit about this.
Yeah, so this one is a really interesting one because it's kind of a roller coaster dark ride hybrid.
Yeah.
So, but not so much like Fire in the Hole where it's like 90% dark ride and 10% roller coaster.
Right.
This one I would almost say is the inverse of that. Maybe a little, I don't know. It's probably like 25% dark ride, 75% roller coaster. That's probably how I'd classify it. So, opened in 2007, $17.5 million, which is that's pretty impressive. 1,804 feet long. It's only 85 feet tall. The reason they're able to get the ride to be so long, though, is because it has 2 lift hills, which kind of...
Right, which you said was a little bit unique.
Yeah, so we'll talk about that for sure. 43 mile per hour top speed. Something else I'm going to start including in these stats at the beginning of the episode is that if it's in a major park, I can actually look up what its average wait time has been for the year.
That's
so for this year, average wait time for Mystery Mine has been 26 minutes. So not bad. So in the CoasterBot rankings, it ranks at number 166 in the country. It ranks below coasters such as Monster at Adventureland, Hang Time at Knott's Berry Farm, and TMNT Shellraiser at Nickelodeon Universe. It ranks above coasters such as Tantrum at Six Flags Darien Lake, Daredevil Dive at Six Flags Over Georgia, and Iron Shark at the Galveston Island Pleasure Pier. At Dollywood, it ranks 5th. However, I will say it's probably 6th after Big Bear Mountain. We'll see where Big Bear Mountain ends up in the rankings, but I've heard nothing but high praise from Big Bear Mountain, so I imagine it's probably going to pass Mystery Mine. So, but as of right now, it's number 5, with Lightning Rod at number 1, then Thunderhead, Tennessee Tornado, Wild Eagle at 4, then Mystery Mine, and then 6, 7, 8 is Fire Chaser Express, Dragonflyer, and Blazing Fury. So that's kind of the current rankings at the park. Review of the name. I think it's a solid name.
Yeah.
I mean, I like the alliteration. The alliteration makes it a good name, I think.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's not much more to say than that. It's the name fits. Review of the logo. I think it's a good logo. I don't know, this logo is kind of, because this is like when I went to like grab logos from online or whatever, I couldn't find where it was just the words. It always had like the dynamite and the crow in the logo, so it's kind of interesting. It made it hard to. Yeah. This is going to make it hard to put on my YouTube thumbnail because when it's a tall logo instead of a wide logo, that makes it difficult for me. Yeah. But it's fine. It's a good logo. Review the paint scheme and the trains. The paint scheme is just a light gray, so there's nothing too much to speak of. But I did want to call out that the cars are really cool. They're so cool.
It almost reminds me of like a steampunk kind of theme. Like
a little bit, I can see that, but it's definitely designed to like. And one of the things that's interesting about this model, and we'll talk a little bit about this later, but the models are just single cars instead of like most roller coasters have like 6, 7, 8 cars in a train. Yeah. This one is just single cars with 8 people to a car, which makes it more...
like the wait time's longer?
Well, what I was going to say is it makes passing it off as a minecart more believable because it's not just like a train of mine carts like, you know, the kind of the mine train coasters are. This is literally like just cars. So it actually kind of feels and looks like you're in a mine cart, which is cool.
Oh, that's cool. I like that.
And then the way they painted them to just look like they're all rusty and beat up and old, and it's just, they did a very good job. Whichever the artist that worked on the cars for Dollywood, kudos to them. I don't know if that was the park that did that, or if that was the manufacturer.
Dolly
herself, I'm sure. I'm sure she's got plenty of time for that. She's got so much free time. So. Well,
didn't she come out with a rock record?
I think recently. I think that's what she's been working on lately. But this was 2007 though, so she had more time in 2007, right? Yeah, right? She wasn't as busy back then. Here's the park's description of the ride. Mystery Mine.
Oh, dear heavens.
What if there is no light at the end of the tunnel? Find out on Dollywood's Mystery Mine. Steel coaster where a 1,811-foot track travels through an abandoned coal mine.
Oh my gosh.
You tell me how much you like this, so why do you keep teasing me about it every week?
It's funny.
Then why are you acting like it's dumb?
Because it is. But it's cute.
Oh, okay. It's not supposed to be cute.
I'm sorry. To be very creepy.
It's very, very cool.
Oh, sorry. Continue.
Sorry.
Continue.
You interrupted me.
You need to just start over.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure people would love that. Uncertain encounters and amazing maneuvers await, including a hair-raising 95-degree, 85-foot vertical drop that plunges into darkness. There you go. There's the what is so funny?
It's just you don't act like that at home, so like
that's the point. The point is to be overly dramatic. That's the idea.
Got it. Okay. It just gets me every time.
Okay, we'll do it differently this time. What if there's no light at the end of the tunnel? Find out on Dollywood's Mystery Mine. We're on 8,000.
Oh my goodness. Our poor listeners are like, what is going on?
Oh, what else do we got here? Oh, well, of course. We've got customer reviews. Everybody's favorite. Who knows? No one's actually said whether it's their favorite or not. Who knows?
I know it's like our favorite. We love reading the customer reviews.
Well, my favorite's the roller coaster history, but I know that's a coaster enthusiast opinion. That's not a GP opinion.
Mine's your animated voice.
That's your favorite?
That is my
Even
favorite.
though you make fun of it every week?
I don't make fun of it. It just makes me giggle because I just don't... It's just something that you don't do. So, like, when you do it, it just makes me giggle.
See, the only thing that makes me think you're judging me is rather than just laughing, you say, like, oh, dear heavens. Like, just... Because
it's just like, I just don't know how to respond. I don't know how to respond to it. So, like, this is...
Maybe next time you can be like, yes, let's
personal cheerleader.
Let's go!
Let's go! Oh my gosh.
This is interesting. This episode's got a different vibe tonight.
It's something. It is something.
1 star, Bumpy. I'm reviewing it so I remember never to ride this one again.
I'm sad they only gave it 1 star though.
People are entitled to their opinions, I suppose. I've never thought to leave a review on something so I remember how I feel about it. I guess that's not a bad idea. Some people, I guess it depends on if you just go back and look at your reviews or not in the past, so.
Maybe they do it like a blog.
Maybe. I'm not exactly... They have left 305 reviews, so they do leave a lot of reviews.
I don't know how reviews technically work. Like, if you can go back and look at your own...
You probably can, because it's all done through your Google profile, so you probably can look back. So, here's another 1 star. You have to be really skinny to ride it. People that were broad-chested or large are kicked out of line after waiting for an hour. No ride. It's a stupid design flaw. The one reason I wanted to include this one was because I want to offer some constructive advice. If you are worried you're not going to fit on a roller coaster, I'm not going to say 90%. When you go to major amusement parks, most of the roller coasters will have a test seat outside of the ride that you can double check before you get in line whether you're going to fit on the ride or not. So if you're worried about that, definitely make use of that test seat, because that'll prevent you from waiting an hour in line and having this happen to you where you're not able to get on the ride. So
right.
Here's another one.
What's this on?
Well, this one I found on, what's it? I think it's Captain Coaster's the name of the site.
I was going to say, this is not a Google review.
This isn't a Google review. This one is specifically like for enthusiasts to go and leave their opinions on coasters. And I just found this one that made me laugh. This is a half star. I guess they do 1 through 5, but you can do, half star ratings. So This is a 1/2 star.
They don't even get a full star.
Yeah, it says, yeah, ouch, not big fan of this ride. And one of the tags that they put on it was tear it down. And I think that's a little aggressive. I don't think any coaster deserves to be torn down. I don't know. Some people would
retract, but
yes, definitely. I would always be of the opinion of try to fix a coaster before you just tear it down, unless it's
or RMC it.
Well, obviously. No, if the only time I would say tear it down is if it's just unsafe, or maybe there was an accident on it where someone got injured. Like last week we talked about Son of Beast, right? Where that ride was just unsalvageable and it needed to come down. So especially when people are getting injured and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Here's another 1 star. Hated the straight up. So the lift hills are vertical. They go straight up. And so...
I don't know if I would like that either.
Oh, I love it. It's so fun.
I think that would freak me out.
It's interesting because it takes something that on most coasters is pretty mundane, just going up the lift hill, and actually makes it like a thrilling and exciting part of the ride. So it's kind of interesting. But yeah, I can see if you didn't like vertical lift hills, then yeah, you would not enjoy this ride. So... here's 2 stars. Fun, yes. Dangerous, yes. I I wouldn't say it's dangerous. I mean, it might feel that way, but I would not. The coaster.
Way to the danger zone. I don't know. They're obviously not a danger zone person. So.
Well, and when we talk about some of the
maybe
operation,
we should crop out the singing part.
No, I think that was perfect. I think we'd definitely leave that in.
No!
When we talk about some of the operations of the coaster, it's actually impressive how safe they make the coasters. And Dollywood, from what I understand, Dollywood goes the extra mile to make sure everything is safe.
Episode last week with the...
Well...
that one was scary. That one made me, like, nervous. I'm like, do I even want to get on the coaster again? So... I hope we don't get to the point that you're just like, yeah, I don't think I like roller coasters anymore. You're talking me with these podcasts that we're doing. You're talking me out.
Last week we talked about a coaster that was very unsafe. Well, not very unsafe, but it had problems, right?
It had major problems.
This week should make you feel better because Mystery Mine has had almost no problems, and some of the stuff that's interesting is actually in here.
Yeah, maybe you
should
really start
interesting.
Convincing me to.
We'll try to gain some confidence back this week.
Alright. Well, I've never been on it, so I can't even say
That's
anything
true.
about it.
3 stars. It's half good, meaning the first half didn't do anything, and the second half was pretty good. I would ride it just because of the second half.
You mentioned this.
I can definitely see that where the first half is more of the dark ride section, and then there's kind of a small little winding section that's outside. It's not super thrilling, it's just kind of fun. But the last drop and the double inversions at the very end, definitely the highlight of the ride for me. So I can definitely see where the people would feel this way.
Yeah.
3 stars. This is a pretty radical ride that seems less wild than it really is once you get on it. It's pretty rough and it'll jerk you around quite a bit. It appears to be a favorite where young kids get their grandparents on the ride, think it's not as nasty a roller coaster as it is. There was an elderly woman on my train that was cursing up a storm that she was lied to about this ride, and it was simultaneously frightening and hilarious, I hate to admit. I love that. I love this review.
Okay, so my brother... Like, I have full rights to totally make fun of him because he would appreciate it and agree with me that he is not a roller coaster person. No. So when we took him to Hershey, we put him on a roller coaster, and I've never heard this kid like start like swearing and like saying the most absurd things. Like, oh, it was so funny. I wish we would have recorded it because it was.
I don't know how you would have, because you'd have to have your phone out, and obviously you're not going to do that. So
this crazy kid. So he went ride the roller coaster the rest of the day. But.
I find this review funny because I can totally relate to something where it's like frightening and like you feel bad for somebody, but also it's like hilarious and you don't want to be laughing.
There are some coasters that I've gotten on that like I almost like riding coasters almost as like for other people's reactions just as much as myself.
I totally get that.
Yeah.
When I was at Kentucky Kingdom, there's a couple rides there that are really, really intense airtime.
Yeah.
And so for enthusiasts, we're kind of prepared for that and we know that about the coaster, but I love getting on a ride with someone that's their first time and just to see their eyes just, you pull into the brake run and their eyes are just like the size of, like dinner plates, just like, whoa.
I wish I would have gotten on with Levi during Lightning Rod.
No, I'm talking about,
like Levi's reaction. So Nathan's little brother is 7, turning 8 this weekend, and you said that he was like clinging to you like at the end of the ride, and his eyes were like super big, and anyways.
Yeah.
I think pretty much. So cute.
3 stars, can be a little rough, not a fan of the somewhat offensive theme, but it's a fine ride. I was struggling to figure out how this ride is offensive. It's just 1880s mining operation is the whole theme, so I don't know, maybe this person comes from a family of miners and it's all stereotypes that they don't appreciate. Like, I don't know. I could not figure this one out. 4 stars, exciting, eventful, and very bumpy. A worthy coaster to be sure, but expect your brain to bounce inside your skull a little. I don't like that. That mental image. I'm totally using that mental image, I just don't like that.
Next time we get on the coaster, did your brain bounce?
Oh, I don't like that.
Did your brain bounce up?
Your brain bounce inside your skull. I don't like that.
You got your bouncy ball inside your head.
Oh, you're making it worse.
Yo-yo or
that is our customer reviews.
Nathan's like, we're done.
Like I said, you're making it worse, so we're moving on. So that is customer reviews for Mystery Mine. That is our introduction to Mystery Mine. Let's talk about the history of Mystery Mine. So we're going to go back to 1982. So we're going to start in Germany today. So in 1982, this is Hubert Gerstlauer.
Looks like my dad.
I don't see that at all.
No, it doesn't look like my dad.
I don't see that at all. Former employee of Schwarzkopf, which is a roller coaster manufacturer, founded his own company, Gerstlauer Electro, which would basically, he left Schwarzkopf when they were like having some financial difficulties, but then he ended up delivering electric and pneumatic equipment for Schwarzkopf. So he kind of left the company, but started a company that was meant to work in tandem. So kind of interesting. Around the same time, Schwarzkopf would actually go bankrupt in 1983 following a cancellation of a large contract and the death of the director of their crediting bank. So that's kind of it. So basically their bank that like managed all their loans and everything, they were like buddies with, you know, the director over there. Well, then after he passed away, then the bank is like, you know, not as buddy with them anymore. So so they go bankrupt in 1983. So they would work with companies BHS and Zierer to complete their remaining contracts throughout the late 80s. Eventually in 1992, Gerstlauer would actually purchase the rest of the Schwarzkopf production facility and all the remaining assets. So this is the Schwarzkopf factory, I think back in the early 90s.
Have you ever wanted to tour a roller coaster factory?
Oh, certainly. I would love to do that.
There's you go. There's your bucket list item.
Oh, absolutely. I would love to do that. So Gerstlauer starts producing their own amusement rides. They started with, I think, Ferris wheels is what they started with. Even though Schwarzkopf was really big in flat rides, and, well, I guess technically at Ferris wheel is a flat ride, but Schwarzkopf also did a lot of roller coasters. But Gerstlauer, it would take them 6 years before they finally did a roller coaster. So they did this small family coaster.
Okay, that's adorable.
Yeah, these little bobsled cars.
I love cute. The fixtures, the buildings.
Yeah, it's pretty cute.
I want to go inside the buildings more.
Now, let's see. I got to get this pronunciation right. So it opened in 1988. Coaster by the name of Gerstlauer, I think is how you say it.
Where?
Gerstlauer. This one right here.
Gerstlauer. Okay, well, where's that?
It's in Germany, I'm pretty sure. It was either Germany or the Netherlands. I can't remember for sure, but I don't think it's French. 4 more of these coasters would open between 1999 and 2003, so that kind of got them into the coaster industry. However, 2003 was a really big year for Gerstlauer because they were going to introduce a brand new model. So in 2003, they introduced their Eurofighter coaster. The coaster model would be the first coaster to offer a beyond vertical drop. Kind of. This is a tangent, but it's a coaster we have to talk about because I don't know if we'll ever talk about it again. I want you to look at this thing.
No. Why?
So this is...
I'm pulling your mom card. Why? Why?
That's
not a coaster.
Well, trust me. This is... I probably would ride it just for the credit, but never again, because this thing is a traveling fair coaster called Cool and Fresh. And
it's a traveling coaster? Yeah.
This is a traveling coaster, isn't this?
No.
You ready to watch a video of this thing? Here we go.
No. Turn it off.
No, we gotta watch this. Here's this video.
Nathan.
So it basically has a brake. What's really, look how janky that is.
No! The thing's gonna fall over.
It's not gonna fall over. Here, we can watch a POV
of it. My gosh. Why would you ride this?
So if you're not able to watch the video, this
you are not allowed to ride this.
Well, I don't think anybody even knows where it's at anymore. This is an old coaster. So, but this thing is basically, it's not even that tall, but it has a vertical lift hill. And then as you go over the lift hill, it's basically like a drop, like a 270 degree from vertical lift all the way. Like you kind of just wrap around to the top of the lift hill and go almost upside down and then straighten back out into the drop. So, but it has a brake on the whole section at the top, so you really don't even gain speed until after you've completed that section. And then you do a vertical loop, and then that's basically the whole ride. So, since this is a traveling coaster and no one knows where it's at anymore, we just kind of forget about this one.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's forget that this ever happened.
So Gerstlauer comes out with this permanent, like it's a coaster that's meant to be permanent at amusement parks, not something like this that would have a beyond vertical drop. It was also unique because, as we mentioned earlier, it had the singular cars rather than full trains, which had been done before, but not like, I don't know, not quite like this. So, let's see, what else do I have here? Riders would board cars that feature 2 rows of 4 with only 8 people being dispatched at a time. So for small parks, that's not an issue, but if it's like a big park, you have to have a lot of trains to make sure you have plenty of capacity. So you think like a Space Mountain at Magic Kingdom, those trains only hold 6 people at a time, but they can run like 8 trains at a time. So as long as you have a lot of, trains or cars, then, it doesn't become a problem. So the first Eurofighter would be Vildsvinet at Bonbonland in Denmark. So that's this one right here. It would be this ride became the first permanent roller coaster to feature a beyond vertical drop at 97 degrees.
It's not as bad.
So, no, this is it's not as bad. It's cool and fresh. Since Gerstlauer is a German company, the Eurofighter started to gain popularity in Europe. And part of that was because they not only are they, really impressive for having these beyond vertical drops, which hadn't really been done before, but they're also fairly inexpensive for what you get and fairly compact. So you can pack a lot of thrills and
German Wild Mouse.
Kind of. It's kind of like, Wild Mouse would be like super thrilling back in the day when those were, being built for the first time. And nowadays, if people are going to try to build a roller coaster that's going to be kind of like, well, we talked about the Vekoma Boomerangs, right? They were like a cheap price tag for what you got. Mm. That's kind of how these are nowadays. So you'll see smaller parks that are being more willing to invest in one of these Eurofighters rather than, something much bigger but much more expensive. And you can still get a really great coaster for a fraction of the cost of some of the other manufacturers. So in Europe, they would open Typhoon in Belgium in 2004. Speed No Limits would open in Wales in 2006. And Rage would open in England in 2007. Gerstlauer also introduced a spinning coaster model in 2004, and that model actually became pretty popular in the U.S., with 6 of them opening between 2004 and 2007, mostly because Six Flags took a particular interest in the model and put them in several of their parks. But the Eurofighter had yet to make its way to the U.S. So I don't know exactly why it was. I don't know why the spinning coaster took off, but the Eurofighter was doing better in Europe than it was over here. But after these spinning coasters had been successful for a few years and Gerstlauer had kind of established themselves as a reputable company to work with, that caught some attention within the amusement industry in the U.S. So during this time frame in the early 2000s, Dollywood had been growing the park like crazy. So in 2004, they opened Thunderhead, which won the award for best wooden coaster for a couple years after that. Also, that whole left side of the park didn't even exist before they built Thunderhead. So if you think of when we were there, it's basically a big triangle, right? Before then, it was basically just a line. It was like, the entrance was here, and Tennessee Tornado was at the end, and then everything else kind of just filled up this middle section. And then Thunderhead is when they started pushing out to the left side of the park. And so they, in 2006, 2004, when they built Thunderhead, it was the section of the park was called Thunderhead Gap. So then the following year, the park would completely overhaul the country fair section of the park. They removed like almost all of the rides and replaced them with 10 brand new rides. So like that's a pretty huge investment to just tear out a bunch and put a bunch of brand new rides in. That's so also... Go ahead.
I guess, when did Silver Dollar City buy Dollywood?
Oh, that was a long time ago. They bought Dollywood, then they named it Silver Dollar City. They both had the same name. Right. That was back in the 70s. And then Dolly came in 1986. And that's when she bought 50% stake in the company in the park. And then that's when they rebranded it to Dollywood. Yeah. So
I didn't know she was only 50%. I thought she had more than that.
Yep, it's 50% owned by Dollywood's. It's not Dolly Parton. It's like, she has a company that owns it. And then 50% by Herschend, which is the company that, Silver Dollar City, all those. So that would happen, and then in 2006, Thunderhead Gap would be expanded with a new lumberjack-themed area that included several new rides, and they renamed that section of the park Timber Canyon. So they were already looking for their next big addition at this time. So we kind of see Gerstlauer making their way in, Dollywood's looking for a new attraction, and that's kind of where the two met. So on July 7th, 2006, Dollywood would officially announce Mystery Mine, a $17.5 million Gerstlauer Eurofighter, the first of its kind in North America. This would also be North America's first roller coaster with a beyond vertical drop at 95 degrees. So, which is interesting because the other ones in Europe were 97 degrees, so I don't know why the decision for 95 degrees on this one. Anyway, it's not that big of a difference, but... However, Mystery Mine would be pretty different from all the other Eurofighter models. First of all, it had 2 lift hills, which we talked about towards the beginning of the episode. But even more than unique than that, it would be partially indoors with sections of track that behaved more like a dark ride. So that was pretty different from anything else Gerstlauer had done to this point. Here's a quote from Dolly Parton, your favorite. I've got a couple Dolly quotes in here that I'm sure you're going to love.
I love that one.
She said, "I've had to keep my big mouth shut about the Mystery Mine, but I can tell you now it's the most exciting thing to come out of these hills in a long, long time. And I've got a few more tricks up my sleeve that I'm still not telling you about until it opens at Dollywood next year, but I can guarantee you it's well worth the wait."
I can just hear her
right, you can just hear her voice saying that.
I love her. Oh my gosh.
So, as part of the announcement, Dollywood set up MysteryMine.com, which I actually was able to get pulled up on the Wayback Machine, so that was pretty exciting that I was able to look back and see what the website looked like. So it had ride stats on here, so you could see all the different stats and who was involved in building the ride and designing it and all that. They had the concept drawings on there, including, I think this is when it first opened. That's what the ride photo would look like. You'd have your picture down here.
Oh, okay.
It had construction photos, so that they would post construction updates throughout the process.
I really like
this is the groundbreaking ceremony.
That's cool.
So, and then
they do such a good job in putting in characters.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So. They also had cryptic videos that told the legend of the mine. And these, just looking at these, you're like, that is so 2007.
It's so 2000s.
You want to watch one of them?
Yes.
Here we can watch one of them right here. Let me turn up the volume on this so you guys listening can hear it as well.
And the music sounds like 2000s.
Mm-hmm. It's called The Journey. That's the name of the first one.
It's true. My mom told me. Her dad saw it when he was a kid. But nobody's supposed to go up there now. You're full of beans. I am not.
You're full of beans.
That's the old story that people tell to scare kids.
Can I start using that on you? You're full of beans.
I'll show you if you're not afraid. Fine. But I gotta be home for dinner or else. I'm telling you, there's some scary stuff up there no one ever got out. You're just trying to scare me. No, it's true. You just got us lost. How much further? It's right around here. I just know it. I found it. Come help me.
The mystery continues. So there you go. So they had 5 of those that kind of just were setting up the story for the ride leading up to the opening day. So kind of fun. So construction would begin shortly after that. Here's some pictures. Now it's interesting because these pictures actually let you see a little bit of what you don't really get to see anymore. Because these are the two
by the building. Right?
Yeah, so these are the 2 lift hills, which they built those first. Basically, they built the whole indoor section first, so then they could start building the building around it, and then they could do all the outdoor stuff after that was done. So that's kind of fascinating. You can see this first lift hill is not really as tall, and then this is the one at the very end of the ride heading into the finale is the big drop.
So if they were ever to need to repair, like take a section of the ride out, do they have to take down the building or...
I think it's designed in a way that they probably can do it without having to tear the building apart, but I don't know that for certain. I've
always wondered that, like if buildings are built around a thing, then how does that work?
The nice thing with Dollywood is they're not open completely year round. They're open from like, March through December.
With their weather, they have to be.
Yeah, so they're open like March through December, just like Silver Dollar City is. So that does give them like a 3-month period that they could do stuff like that if they needed to. So, let's see.
They're cold, but yeah.
Yeah, for sure. The track, this is something I'm not certain of, but just based on these pictures, seems to be the case. I think the track is actually 2 different colors. So you can kind of see here. So this, when you're on the ride, this is the tower here, and then it comes out of like a cut out of the building right there, and that's where it comes into the outdoor section. And you can see the track inside is like black, darker, and then the track as it comes out of the building is like a light gray.
Darker inside the building.
That's kind of what I'm thinking is maybe during the dark ride portions, it's like darkened so that it's not as visible.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just kind of noticed that looking at these pictures. So yeah. Construction would continue throughout the rest of 2006 and into 2007. There's a picture of the dive loop as they're working on that section on the outdoor portion. As opening day drew closer, Dollywood announced a first rider auction for charity. I like when parks do that. It's really cool. But even in this instance, it's perfect because Dolly Parton has her own charity. So they essentially, what is it called? The Imagination Library? Is that what her charity is? So the top 56 bidders would get to ride the first 7 cars on opening day. They would also get admission for opening weekend, a photo op with Dolly Parton, and I think she would sign your picture too. Like after they would like print off that picture that you took with her, and then she would sign it. So
yeah, I would just do that for just that.
Isn't that pretty cool? Winning bids would ultimately be $625. So not too shabby. The whole fundraiser ended up raising $35,000, which was enough to supply 1,000 children with new books for a year.
I love her.
That's
charity.
pretty cool. Yeah.
It's such a neat thing.
It's pretty cool too to just see like just that little bit of like selling off 56 rides was able to like have that much of an impact. So it's pretty cool that they were able to do that.
Yeah.
I also found this article that was pretty cool. Park officials made it a point to hire local talent in the area to assist with designing and constructing the ride when they could. So some of the leading artists that were involved in the design process were from Asheville, North Carolina, which is just across the border from there, and then Franklin, Tennessee, which is kind of out by the Nashville area. So here's the article here. I'm not going to read this whole thing because there's a lot of details in here, but one of the people that were hired to do the outdoor portion of the building, basically designing the outside of the building.
Not the queue, but like the outside.
Not the queue. Well, maybe the queue, but definitely like the outside of the mine was kind of their portion. Their names were Don and Paul Tickle. That was their name. And it said
their last name.
The Tickles, right? It's a great name. At Dollywood, so here's the quote. It says, "At Dollywood, the Tickles are painting the exterior to make the mine look much older than it is. Basically, they hired us to make the building look like it had a bad paint job," Paul Tickle said on site. "It looks really old and spooky and toxic almost." So that's kind of cool. Mm-hmm. So I think they were from Asheville, if I remember correctly. So I just thought it was cool. They were making it a point to hire local people to work on the project.
People do that.
Yeah. The park also made like a really good point of paying attention to detail when it came to the story that they created for the ride.
They do that pretty often here at Dollywood.
So I guess in old mining days, there were 3 main superstitions among miners. So number 1 was never take your boots off in a mine. It's bad luck because there's only one way a man comes out of a mine without boots. Spooky. 2, birds in a mine are bad luck.
I knew this one.
The one exception is if you want canaries with you in the cave. Okay. Mm-hmm. If you don't know why, it's because if they
the carbon.
Yeah. So if they drop dead or pass out, they are more than likely succumbing to odorless, noxious fumes that can occur in some mining operations. Mm-hmm. Then the last one is don't whistle in a mine. In rare circumstances, it could cause structural failures in the mine, but more importantly, miners would keep the canary there, and the canaries are, always whistling. Mm-hmm. So if the whistling stops, that's kind of one of your tips to go and check on the canary. But if you keep hearing, if some miner is whistling, then you might confuse it for the canary and everyone dies.
Oh my gosh.
So whistling is bad.
Okay, so don't whistle.
So those are the 3. Never take your boots off. No, don't want to see birds.
Why would you take your boots off in the mine anyways?
Exactly. That's part of why too. So never take your boots off. Birds in a mine are bad luck, and don't whistle in a mine. Those are like the big superstitions. So different portions of the ride and the queue all display different portions of these superstitions. Like you find it all over the place. Like there's crows and ravens while you're on the ride. There's whistling in the music that's in the queue and while on the ride. And there's boots hanging from the walls. Just really going all in, showing the condemned state of this mine and the attention to detail and the history that they really looked into. So very well done. Park also had a song written specifically for the attraction that also touches on these superstitions. So, of course, we've got to listen to the song because...
Is it as good as Big Bear?
Well, Dolly wrote Big Bear, so it can't be as good as that one.
Big Bear, you're looking for you. I love that.
So...
in my head on constant repeat.
So, this song's only a couple minutes, so it shouldn't be too long. We got to listen to it, though. Let me turn this back up. Here we go.
Whistle in the mystery mine, for danger you will meet. And though your toes may moan and whine, leave your shoes upon your feet. In the misty mystery mine.
I love this song.
And if a bird should fly inside, you best get out in haste. Or find a place where you can hide as the mine is laid to waste. In the misty mystery mine. Don't bring your four-leaf clover here. Don't bring your rabbit's foot. For when the day is over here, you'll find your goose is cooked. So listen, boys, to all these rules and believe me when I say, don't whistle in the mystery mine, and you'll survive this day. In the misty mystery mine.
So there you go. There's the Mystery Mine theme song.
I love it.
They had a specific soundtrack that was written specifically for, I think, the queue too. So like just background music, no lyrics or anything, but it's really good too. So they really just a lot of effort being put into the theming and the design of this ride. It's just very well done. Ride construction would complete without any delays, and Mystery Mine would open to the public as scheduled on Friday, the 13th of April, 2007, and continues to operate to this day. The ride experience was as follows. We'll talk about that. Ride experience was as follows. This is a little longer than usual just because of some of the dark ride elements, but I'll try to make this quick. At the station, 2 cars are loaded simultaneously, 8 passengers to a car. After dispatch, the first car will head straight into the layout while the second car will move forward and wait for the first car to reach the first lift hill. Upon leaving the station, the car dives straight into a small drop and back up. The car meanders through some slow outward and inward bank turns while laughter and music play. The walls are filled with themed elements including crows with glowing eyes and a caged canary. A giant rock crusher starts spinning towards the car, which takes a small drop to narrowly miss the crusher. After a small hairpin turn, the car reaches the first vertical lift hill. After reaching the top, the car drops down a short hill outside the ride building and over another small hill. The car dives down a steep drop and up a vertical U-turn. The car proceeds to swing around a few small helices, a small hill, and a banked S-curve before plunging back into the abandoned mine building, where it slows down. A spotlight turns on, illuminating the caged canary seen earlier. A special effect flashes from the shaft ahead as the canary turns over on its perch to indicate it has died. The car begins to ascend the mine shaft as crows peer out from behind the broken boards surrounding the shaft. A window effect above riders shows the storm going on outside the shaft. Another flash of lightning strikes the top of the simulated tower, which collapses onto the window. Now in darkness, the car stops at the top of the lift hill. A lit fuse is heard and soon becomes visible. A green lantern suddenly illuminates, sitting on top of a mound of dynamite in boxes, hooked to the quickly approaching fuse. As the lit portion reaches the dynamite, simulated flames shoot out as the car drops at a beyond vertical drop of 95 degrees that turns slightly to the right as the car exits the building. Hitting the top speed of 43 miles per hour, the cars dive into an uphill heartline roll that rolls again into a dive loop. The car then enters the final brake run and returns to the station. So, quite a lot there.
Yeah.
But I wanted people that haven't had a chance to ride these rides to kind of get an idea of what the experience is like.
All right.
So, of course, on Media Day, Dolly made her entrance by riding one of the cars on an elevator lift up into the station. This is the outfit that she was wearing that day.
Oh my gosh.
Like she's even got a little spotlight, like a little miner headlamp.
Love her. Stop.
So
She's so cute.
Yeah, these some pictures from the Media Day there at Dollywood. Let's see, I've got an article here that talks a little bit about opening day. So there's this guy, I guess he works he was a hotel manager from a nearby area. And he was really scared of roller coasters, but he wanted to meet Dolly. So he came to the event and the media event, and quotes here, said, "I didn't want to look like a chicken in front of my idol either. Dolly could tell he was nervous," he said. "She kept trying to make me comfortable, and I was scared. I told her that my mom told me that it would take Dolly Parton to get me on a roller coaster, period." Dolly seemed sympathetic, but she told me she wasn't going with me no matter what. And then this is great here. "But Parton delightfully declined. I have too much to lose by getting on this ride," she said. "My hair, my eyelashes, my fingernails, Lord knows what else would spill out."
I love that woman.
Oh, that's so good. I love that.
Oh, she is a hoot.
She's pretty funny. This picture is kind of bad because it's on an old newspaper, but you can see that's her there with like shooting off the confetti from the front of the ride there. So
I love her.
Very cool.
She's such a cool person.
Here's a before and after shot. This is much more recent because, you've got the other coasters there that weren't there previously, but you can kind of see how this is where the first lift hill is here, and then this big tower here is where that second lift hill is, and so you can kind of see just the before and after of how that all got pieced together in the end. So pretty cool. The ride was an instant success for the park. It was a little weird and a little quirky, but the theming was incredibly well done, and the finale was just the cherry on top for thrill seekers.
Yeah. I will say, because when you walk up to it, and you see this massive building, what's that? And you find out that it's a coaster, you're like, oh, intriguing. So...
It's one of those rides that I feel like all the enthusiasts kind of agree that, it's not going to break any records. It's not, going for top 10 in the country or whatever. But there's just something about it that the theming is just so well done. And it's a little bumpy and there's a little headbanging because it's got over the shoulder restraints, but you're kind of willing to overlook it because of all the other attention to detail and everything else that's put into the ride. So it's really well done.
So it does have shoulder restraints.
Yes, it's over the shoulder restraints. I will say not as much headbanging as I've had on other rides though. Not too bad. Mostly because it only goes upside down twice. So where, some of the others like the B&M inverse go upside down 6-7 times or whatever. And
no
I know you're not a fan. Along with the ride's opening came Buzz the Buzzard, an animatronic vulture.
I remember Kiersey was like, I hate that thing.
Sits just outside the entrance to the ride. During opening year, Buzz was actually remote controlled and could interact with the guests, which is kind of fun. Since 2008, it now has preset recordings that tell the backstory of the mine and a few of the characters in the story. I've got just a short clip of Buzz here. He's not telling any of the story right here because he also just makes jokes and stuff like that. So here's a little clip of Buzz here.
Birds are sitting on a perch, and one says to the other, "Do you smell fish?" Get it? Perch, fish. I just love that one.
For animatronic though, he's very well maneuvering. He's
not bad for a non-Disney park.
Exactly, that's what I was thinking. He's his movements are smooth. I appreciate it.
Yeah, not too bad.
The effort there. That's cool.
Yeah. So later that year at the Golden Ticket Awards, Mystery Mine would take second place for the best new ride of 2007. There's a good reason though. Fourth was Renegade at Valley Fair. Third was Griffin at Busch Gardens Williamsburg. And Maverick at Cedar Point also opened in 2007.
I love Maverick.
You can't compete with Maverick.
Love Maverick.
Maverick is so good.
One of my favorites. I think it's number 2.
It's in my top 3 right now. It's very good. So it's kind of one of those things that you're like, okay, well, was anything gonna beat Maverick really? No. So, but definitely Mystery Mine, well worth the second place spot. That was impressive. So. Since the ride is open, the park has actually been pretty transparent about the ride's operations through blog posts, and they do a lot of when coaster events happen at the park. Mystery Mine tends to be one of the behind the scenes tours they like to do a lot. So there's actually a few videos on YouTube I was able to watch of behind the scenes tours. And actually, this week, CoasterCon was happening at Dollywood. Not this week, but a little bit of last week. And I saw some people that were posting pictures from Mystery Mine from a behind-the-scenes tour. So even, as recent as a couple weeks ago, people were getting to do behind-the-scenes tours and getting to see different things. So here's some fun facts about the ride that I learned just by watching some of these. So inspections and maintenance begins 5 hours before the park opens.
That's wild.
Isn't that crazy?
I wouldn't want that job.
It's performed by 2 members of the maintenance team. They check all the theming elements, the lights, the animatronics, the speakers, the building structure, the entire track, every support, and the foundation and footers for every single support. And this also includes a thorough inspection of each car, including the wheels, bolts, seats, and restraints. So that whole process, just for the 2 of them, it takes 5 hours between the 2 maintenance crew members to check all of that. So that is a lengthy process. And like I said, it should make you feel better about the safety of these coasters. So
I'll get on this one.
So let's see. Here's a few photos from behind the scenes stuff. So these 3 are just on the ride, little tidbits that people saw. This is kind of interesting because this is most coasters have a transfer track that's like to the side of the station, right? So that you can add and remove trains.
That looks like it's underneath.
It is. It's underneath the station, and it has an elevator lift that can lift cars in and out of place.
Score 1 for Haley. I'm observant.
Yeah, I'm impressed that you noticed.
Yeah, thank you.
It's kind of cool. So they basically, what they'll do is they will, when the operations team comes in the morning, they will ride each of the 7 cars. And if they notice anything weird going on with any of them, they will take them down into the lower portion and they will work on them. While the ride is running, they'll work on them. And if they feel they get it to a good spot, then they can roll it back to the elevator lift, put it back on the track, and send it on its way. So
that's kind of
very cool. Very
it's
cool.
A neat system.
So
it's very innovative. So.
Yeah. And I think, here's just kind of a behind the scenes picture showing that the Heartline roll is so interesting because you can see it's clearly going uphill. Yeah. Like this is like we're at ground level here, and by the time it gets to the dive loop, it's like,
you don't see that
40,
too often,
50
so
feet in the
cool.
air. So yeah, it's kind of an interesting angle there. We'll get to that in a second. What else do I have here? Actually, we'll go and watch this right now. So I have a video here I'm going to show Haley. It's kind of a long video. So for those of you, I will link this on my Twitter for those of you that want to watch it, because we're not going to watch the whole thing. I'm actually going to just kind of mute it while we're talking here. But one of the things that's fascinating is it was posted on Dollywood's website. And it's basically a behind-the-scenes tour of Mystery Mine, but also an interview with one of the maintenance hosts for Mystery Mine. And he's just kind of showing how he goes about checking all the different details. And so here we're watching him here. He's just checking every single wheel to see, like, is it spinning the way it's supposed to? Are the bolts tight? Is the wheel coming loose? Has it been worn down too much? And he's just checking every little bit of every single car on the track. And so, it's just fascinating to watch. And, I really haven't seen, and here you can kind of see he's going through, actually you can kind of see here how he's rolling it onto the elevator lift. I'm not sure if it doesn't show it, but you can see here he's going through with a flashlight, checking all the restraints and all the, hydraulics and everything on the coast, on the cars. And then they actually send them out onto the track and make sure they're running properly. So it's fascinating, all the different checks that go through every morning. And granted, probably every park does some kind of similar process to this, but this was just the first time I've been able to clearly find lots of material to actually see specifically how they do it for this ride. So I wanted to include that because it was just kind of interesting.
We don't see it too often, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah. So you don't get to see behind the scenes stuff like this too much. So you can see they have 16 cameras that are looking from anywhere to basically all the brake runs, the lift hills, and then I think there's a few in the station and in the queue, just so that the ride operators are kind of keeping an eye on them.
So do all coasters have these videos?
Like cameras watching the track? Oh, yeah. Huh. Unless it's like an older ride, and even then they might have retrofitted it with cameras to, bring it up to modern standards.
I mean, I've seen cameras on rides before. I just didn't know where the security, like, things where if they're just up in the station, I guess that would make sense.
Yep, and it's probably, you could probably have it in multiple places, but really what it's there for is to make sure, if a car were to get stuck on the track for some reason, they don't just keep operating the ride, assuming that everything's fine down, So when you see those people that are in the booth and it says, like, do not disturb on the window or whatever, that's because they're not just sitting there pushing a button. Like, they're actually sitting there, they'll push the button to, like, send the trains on their way, but they're also sitting at that computer monitoring where all the other trains are. So it's quite interesting. So some of the other fun facts, the cars have different wheels that will run depending on specific needs. They have hard wheels and soft wheels. So, if they need to, I think the soft wheels are if they want them to be running a little slower. So if they're going too fast, they'll put the slow wheels on it. Or if it's a cold morning and the the cars are going to get stuck, they'll put the hard wheels on them, so it makes them run a little faster. So kind of interesting. The cars are washed by the operations team every morning. Something I've never considered, that the trains and cars need to be washed on a regular basis.
Bugs.
Well, yeah, exactly. They would get disgusting if they didn't. So, let's see. The only other thing I think I have here is if they need more serious repairs, they will actually send it to an off-site maintenance facility instead of just repairing it below the station. The turn before the first lift hill has been reprofiled a few times. Nothing super serious. Over the years, Gerstlauer has actually updated their Eurofighter trains to have just lap bars instead of the over-the-shoulder restraints. And I saw an interview where someone asked one of the park officials if they would ever convert their Mystery Mine trains to lap bars. And basically, they said, yes, the lap bars would make it more comfortable and, people would enjoy it more, but it's just so expensive to retrofit coaster cars and coaster trains like that. And they basically said it's not keeping enough people off the ride that they consider it worth the expense. So they basically have no plans to retrofit them at this point. So just kind of a bummer, but I also get it. It would definitely be expensive. So it's the same reason, like, being at, like, Silver Dollar City won't put vest restraints on Wildfire. Like, it's just not worth it. There's not enough people that complain about it that it would be worth the millions of dollars it would cost to do that. So the coaster continues to operate throughout the 2010s. They expand further past Mystery Mine with the addition of Wild Eagle in 2012. The success of Mystery Mine would actually convince park officials to work with Gerstlauer a second time when they would add Fire Chaser Express in 2014, which is it's not another Eurofighter, but it's a Gerstlauer family coaster. So they definitely seemed like they were happy with the work that Gerstlauer had done on Mystery Mine to the point that they were willing to work with them again. So then both of those, both Fire Chaser and Express Mystery Mine, all that's going on through 2014 up to 2021. Then, during the 2021 off-season, so pretty recently, Mystery Mine received a major overhaul. So one of the roughest portions of the track was actually this vertical U-turn. It's not working. There we go. So you would this is coming off of the first lift hill. You'd go over like a little hill right here. Then you come into this small little vertical drop, and then you'd go into this U-turn, but it's a U-turn that's basically up on its end. It's kind of unique. I've never seen a coaster that has an element like this, except for like bigger coasters have overbank turns, which I guess is similar to this, but this was just on a much smaller scale.
Right.
But it was, most people said that was like the roughest part of the track, and you would get some headbanging during that portion. So Dollywood made the decision to alter the layout for the 2021 off-season. So the new layout is noticeably different, but there really was only one significant change that was made. So the original layout featured a vertical drop into the U-turn, and then as you left the U-turn, you would go into an upward banked curve to the right, and then into this brake zone right here, and then go throughout the rest of the layout. Now what it does is the new layout, I think you can kind of see here, rather than going into that vertical drop, it makes a left-hand turn and then goes into a less steep drop and goes directly into the upward bank curve, basically just cutting the U-turn out of the layout. So I kind of have an overhead view that kind of shows it a little better. So old layout, you would come into the U-turn and then come into this helix here and then kind of go on your way. Now you come here and make this left turn that goes straight into that turn and then goes through your way. So that's kind of the change that they were made. Basically just take the U-turn and cut it out and fill in the gaps. So it's essentially what they did. Now, the one thing that is interesting is the track leading to and from the U-turn was removed for necessity's sake, but the park elected to keep the U-turn in place. So
I was going to say it's still there, though.
So did you notice that when you were there? Yeah. So this is what it looked like originally. This is nowadays. That U-turn is still there, but it's just completely disconnected from the track. What I've heard is it's actually kind of an illusion, because like you may be coming up to that section, you see that U-turn down below you, but then you make this left-hand turn and go a completely different way. So I think that was part of it. It also may have just been less expensive to leave it there rather than tear it out, but I don't know. So if you go to the park nowadays, it is still there, that old U-turn, but it is not a part of the track anymore. It's completely different, completely separated from the rest of the layout.
It's like, just kidding. You're not going on that.
The ride continues to be a favorite at Dollywood. As we said earlier, it has an average wait time this year is 26 minutes, which isn't a lot, but that shows that you're not just walking onto the ride every day. Like there's a decent amount of people that are going to ride this ride. So, and that's always good to see, especially for a ride that at this point is roughly 15 years old. So, and still for a lot of it's almost like in between family coaster and thrill coaster. Mm-hmm. So specifically looking at our family,
you heard about that grandma that got.
Yeah, exactly. But specifically for our family, we went with my parents and my sister and her husband, and then we had a family friend with us, and then Levi, which is, for those of you who don't know, is my little brother. He has autism, and he loves. He's a thrill junkie, just like I am, and so. My dad wasn't able to ride some of the coasters because of some medical issues he's dealing with right now. Not serious, but just wasn't able to ride because his doctor didn't want him to. So I was riding all the coasters with Levi, and Mystery Mine was actually the first coaster that he went on that went upside down. Mm. So I feel like for a lot of kids his age in that area, this is like their first quote unquote big coaster, right? So that's pretty cool. That I think, for a lot of it may be a lot of Tennessee roller coaster. Oh, he loved it. He still talks about it. In fact, if you were to ask him what his favorite coaster was at Dollywood, he probably would say either this or Fire Chaser Express. Those are the two he talks about all the time. Aww. So he loved this, and So I think a lot of Tennessee enthusiasts, this may have been their first upside down roller coaster, and may have made them a coaster enthusiast. So ever since Mystery Mine opened, that has opened the door for the Eurofighter model in the U.S., with 9 more of them being built here since 2007. So here's just a handful of some of the ones that have opened. It also kind of paved the way for Gerstlauer's Infinity Coaster, which is bigger and also features bigger trains. So there's been 2 of those that have opened, which would be Hang Time at Knott's Berry Farm and Monster at Adventureland, which both of those get pretty high praise from enthusiasts. So, and then in the years since, Gerstlauer has really become a prominent player in the amusement industry in general, currently holding the record for the steepest drop on a roller coaster at 121.5 degrees. That's a far shot from the 97 degrees that they started out. And then even more so, your favorite, they hold the record for the roller coaster with the most inversions at 14.
What?
Why? That's this one right here. 14 inversions.
It's like, here, let me just put you in I don't even know, like not even a blender, but like I just feel like, oh, no.
Good stuff.
You know those circus balls that you see that have the motorcycles in them, and they keep going. Like,
oh yeah, with
I feel like it's
with
that.
the BMX bikers
Yes,
and
I feel like it's
the
that.
steel the round cage. Yeah.
Except they have helmets.
So yeah. So
No.
Mystery Mine's been a big deal because it really just helped Gerstlauer gain their footing in the U.S. and they've done a lot of great stuff here since. And that is the history of Mystery Mine at Dollywood. So there you go. Now knowing the history, now when you get that's one of the fun things about you not having ridden these coasters.
Yeah.
So that means one day when you do, you'll know all this backstory, which is kind of a completely different way to look at the rides, right? So
I would get on it.
Yeah. At least once, right? For the credit.
For the credit. I know. You keep telling me I need to make my credit list.
I mean, I don't know if you've hit 100 yet because
I wouldn't be surprised.
Because there's been some I've been to that you haven't, like Carowinds and Knott's Berry Farm. But yes, you've been to Six Flags Over Georgia, so and Idlewild. So there's a couple there that you've done that I haven't. So I don't know. You're probably close if you haven't. So it'd be interesting.
That's what I want for my birthday.
That's what you want is for your credit list. Well, thank you for tuning in to this episode of the podcast. Really appreciate all of you that continue to support the podcast on a week-to-week basis. If you enjoyed that episode, be sure to go and leave a 5-star review. If you're on Spotify and you're on mobile, it's really easy. You just scroll up to the top of the page where the podcast title is, and you'll see the ratings there, and you can just click on it and put however many stars you want. It's super easy to do. If you're on desktop, I actually have no idea how to do it on a desktop, so maybe you have to do it. Next time you're on mobile, you'll have to do it. You teach us. But yeah, if you could leave us a 5-star review, that would be great. It helps people find the podcast, and I know some of you have done that for us, and we really appreciate it. So be sure to go and follow us on social media. Like I said, we're on Twitter and Instagram. Our handle is just @AirtimeTraveler, and you can see all these pictures that I've been showing Haley throughout the episode, and especially that Dollywood behind the scenes maintenance video that I was showing Haley. Couldn't even play some of the audio for you because it wasn't a YouTube video, so I couldn't I couldn't link it into my presentation here. So you'll just have to click on the link, and then that'll take you to the blog post that has the video, and you can watch it there. So, but I think that's all we've got. Be sure to keep a lookout for trip reports coming in the coming weeks for Holiday World and for Kentucky Kingdom. And then I will be going to Lagoon in the next few weeks as well for the very first time. So obviously there'll be a trip report for that as well. And be sure to keep an eye out for more and more episodes of Airtime Traveler. So I'm not even sure where the next episode is going to be. I think we might go back to Hershey Park. We'll see. We'll see where the next episode's at.
Okay.
Well, thank you for tuning in to this episode of the podcast, and we will see you in the next one.